Hey guys! So today's hair is inspired by Rumi from K-Pop Demon Hunters. I love this character's style, and I'm a braider, so of course I was like, I wonder if I can recreate that look with braids. And I loved how it came out, so keep watching to see how I did it. So the hair I used for the mohawk at the top is called Purple Rain, and it looks a little dark in the pack, but it's actually pretty spot on with Rumi's purple colors. And I say colors plural because Rumi's hair isn't just one color. It has an iridescent effect that creates highlights and contrast. So for my darker purple, I just used this regular purple color from the same hair brand. So the first thing you want to do is part a half circle in the front. And I use a rubber band to tie it up and tuck it away for now. You then part the rest of the hair in half. This part doesn't need to be perfect, just make sure your sides are pretty even. Now before we get into it, these are the braids I originally did when I was just playing around with the style to see where I wanted to go with it. It's a cute idea, but I wanted the parts to be more structured and I made them stitch braids to create a more punk rock vibe, you know? I just like that it added symmetry and drama. So getting back to the rest of the hair, I wanted the parts to look cool but uniform. So I created these triangles by parting diagonally from one central point behind the ear. I did this on one half of the hair while the other half is tied away for later. And parting is really fun to me, so I had a ball doing this. And then I moved on to the stitch braids. I'm going to show this process thoroughly a few different times from multiple angles because you know I like to be detailed. But I'm basically doing feed-in stitch braids. So let me show you how to create the stitches. I have a clean section ready to go. I'm using a pintail comb, and for the first stitch, you'll just part straight up, creating this little triangle at the front, and you braid it a bit to secure it for later. You make the next stitch by repeating that process of parting straight across and then doing about a 1/2 inch braid to secure it for later. I like to do it this way because it ensures that my stitches stay neat when I do the feed-in cornrow. I'm also adding a bit of braiding jam as I part to keep each section nice and visible. And I'm repeatedly just doing a tiny bit of braid to secure the stitch. I've said this before, but this process is really calming. I had music playing and it was just an opportunity to be a girl and play in some hair and not think too much. So all the stitches in this section are done and you can already see how it's going to come together. Now I'm going to move on to the feed-in cornrow. I like the way feed-in braids start thin and then flare out at the end, so that's why I chose to do those. I start by taking out that first little triangle section, because I'm going to start feeding the hair in at that section. So I take the hair and right when I begin to braid, I mean almost immediately, I take a tiny piece of the purple hair and start feeding it in. You want to start feeding it in as soon as possible so that you can actually see the purple hair from the beginning to the end of the cornrow. This is just how you create that cascade effect where the braid starts small and gradually gets bigger. You have to begin feeding it in right away. To feed the hair in, I'm just tucking it between my thumb and index finger as I do each braid pass. My hair pieces are all the same thickness except for the few tiny pieces I added at the front. And I finish off the braid a little bit past the last stitch. Then secure it with a rubber band. And you can see that cool fanned out design coming in. Okay, so next I just repeat that whole process in each section. I'm speeding it up a lot from this point on, and I'm going to show you a few different angles. So just enjoy watching me complete this half, and then we'll move on to the mohawk part, which is super fun. Here's another angle so you can see the feed-in technique better. And when I got to the front, it was the same deal. All you're doing is creating these stitches and then feeding in the hair to create that beautiful purple braid. Here's what it looks like so far. I love this purple, and really this could be some sort of style on its own if you wanted to play with it from here. But I went ahead and did the other side of the head the exact same way off camera, and of course I ended up liking how that side looked way better, but that's okay. So now that both sides are braided, you want to combine them in the middle by adding a rubber band to each section. And you see how nice those stitches are? I swear this could be so many styles. But I just finished adding the rubber bands to each section in the middle. And then I moved to the front. Remember we had this half circle there. This is going to be where we start the mohawk, of course. You want to grab a piece of the purple rain colored hair, which is the lighter purple, and I take a large rubber band, or you can maybe use a hair tie, and wrap it around that piece of hair to create a loop. Then you just tie that rubber band to the front section. Right now you can see the rubber band, but we'll be adding another piece of hair to cover that later. Next, I moved on to the back sections and added that same lighter purple rain hair to each of them as well. To do that, I like to use a hair beater instead of a crochet hook because the large loop in the middle of the beater allows you to drag a thick piece of hair under the braids, whereas a crochet hook would be too small for such a big piece of hair. You can see here that I have no issue getting the hair through the loop, and then just dragging it under and dropping the beater to secure the hair piece. This extra hair is what the braided mohawk is mostly made of. So you want to detangle it as you go along. And again, I'm just adding it to each conjoined section in the middle. Look how pretty those colors are next to each other. I'm loving this so much. Moving back to the front, I added a piece of that lighter hair the same way, using a hair beater so that I could cover up that rubber band in that section. And I pulled that piece back and combined it with the row. And now it's about to be time for the fun part. So you want to take the two pieces hanging down from the first section and wrap them around the second section. And I'm just going to let that fall forward while I combine the first and third sections together with a couple rubber bands. So when that's done, I move to that previous section I had hanging down. You always want to continue with that previous section. And what you do is wrap it around the ponytail you just put in. So this means that I'm taking my second section, wrapping it around the third, and combining it with the fourth section. So guys, I ended up having to refilm and use this vertical footage, but I'm just continuing the process I just showed you. I used a different camera for these shots, so that's why the hair looks more pink here, but I promise it's the same purple hair. And you just want to continue that wrapping and tying process. You don't need to do the rubber bands too tight because you'll need it loose enough to fluff out the finished braid later. I did this until I got to a point where I could just braid the hair at the end. I actually had a lot more hair I could have added, but I didn't want this video to be too long or redundant. So I let the braid in without feeding in any extra hair at the nape of the neck to make the braid longer. And that's our style. I added some hair jewelry to make it pop. And you can see where I braided it off at the end. The front almost looks like a crown as I added a simple jewel and fanned out the hair to cover that first section. And I know this doesn't look exactly like Rumi, but that's why it's an inspired look. There are tons of super cute videos out there that show exactly how to do Rumi style. I just wanted to put a creative twist on it. Like this video and subscribe because I plan to recreate Zoe and Mira as well soon. Later babes!